The vacuum's whir echoed through the marble hallway as I cleaned Mother's prized Persian rugs. 10 years of this, scrubbing, dusting, maintaining the mansion that should have been my inheritance too. But according to Mother, the will had left everything to her. Julia, her sharp voice cut through the noise. You missed a spot. Again. Honestly, you can't even clean properly. I switched off the vacuum, turning to face her. Even at 55, Eleanor Bishop was immaculate, designer clothes, perfect makeup, not a silver hair out of place. She stood at the top of the grand staircase, looking down at me both literally and figuratively. Sorry, Mother, I said quietly, restarting the vacuum. I'll fix it. She sighed dramatically. Your father would be so disappointed. An Ivy League education, and here you are, not even able to handle basic housework. The mention of Dad made my chest tighten. He died suddenly when I was 20, leaving a void that Mother had quickly filled with rules, expectations, and endless criticism. The loving home I'd grown up in became a gilded cage, with Mother holding all the keys. Speaking of disappointments, she continued, descending the stairs. I'm hosting a dinner party tonight for the hospital board. Try to make yourself scarce. I'd rather not explain why my daughter is acting as the help. I bit back a retort. This was her favorite game, reminding me that I was both family and servant trapped in a limbo of her creation. After Dad's death, she'd made it clear. If I wanted to stay in the family home, I'd have to earn my keep. At first, I'd refused. I had a degree in business from Penn, job offers from top firms. But then Mother had revealed her trump card, crushing medical debt from Dad's final illness. Debt she'd help pay off if I stayed and contributed to the household. 10 years later, here I was still cleaning her floors. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Marcus, Dad's old lawyer. Happy 30th birthday, Julia. Can you meet today? Important matter to discuss. I glanced at Mother, but she'd already lost interest in tormenting me, focused instead on reviewing her party preparations. I typed a quick reply, 2 p.m. at your office? Perfect, came the response. Don't tell your mother. Those 3 words sent a shiver down my spine. In all the years since Dad's death, Marcus had never asked to meet privately. Something was different about today. I finished cleaning just as Mother's party planner arrived, giving me the perfect excuse to slip away. I'll be back in time to help with the party, I promised, heading for the door. You better be, Mother called after me. And wear something appropriate. I don't need you embarrassing me in front of the board members. The drive to Marcus's office gave me time to think. 10 years of questions bubbled to the surface. Why had Dad left everything to Mother? Why had there been so much medical debt when he'd always been so careful with money? And why had Mother been so insistent that I stay when she clearly despised my presence? Marcus's office was exactly as I remembered. Wood-paneled walls, leather chairs, the faint smell of pipe tobacco. He stood as I entered, and I was struck by how much older he looked. Julia, he said warmly, gesturing for me to sit. You look just like your father. I smoothed my simple dress, suddenly self-conscious. Thank you for seeing me. What's this about? He opened his desk drawer and pulled out an envelope yellowed with age. My hands trembled as I recognized Dad's handwriting. To be opened on Julia's 30th birthday. Your father left this with me 10 years ago, Marcus explained, along with some other documents he wanted kept safe. I took the envelope, my heart pounding. Mother never mentioned. Your mother doesn't know about any of this, Marcus interrupted. Your father was very specific about that. With shaking fingers, I broke the seal and pulled out several pages of Dad's familiar handwriting. My dearest Julia, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've endured 10 years of your mother's management of my estate. I'm so sorry for what you've been through, but it was necessary to protect what I built. You see, your mother isn't who she pretends to be. The medical debt she held over you? It doesn't exist. The will leaving everything to her? A clever forgery. The real documents are with Marcus, along with evidence of your mother's attempts to embezzle from my company before my death. I knew she would try to control you, to break your spirit, but I also knew you were strong enough to survive it. The real inheritance, the company, the properties, everything was always meant for you, but you needed to understand how power corrupts before you could be trusted with it. Today, on your 30th birthday, everything changes. The real will goes into effect. Your mother's deception ends. I love you, sweetheart, Show her what a true bishop is made of. Love, Dad. I looked up at Marcus, my vision blurring with tears. Is this real? He nodded, placing another stack of documents on the desk. Every word. Your mother has been running quite a scheme these past 10 years, but your father, he was always 3 steps ahead. The drive back to the mansion felt surreal. In my bag were the documents that would change everything. The real will, proof of mother's fraud, and detailed records of her embezzlement attempts from 10 years ago. Remember, Marcus had advised, timing is crucial. Let her start her dinner party. Let her feel secure. Then, I pulled into the circular driveway just as the catering vans arrived. Mother was in her element, directing staff and making last-minute adjustments to the decorations. Finally, she snapped when she saw me. Go change into your serving uniform. The guests will be here in an hour. I headed upstairs to my old bedroom, now barely more than a maid's quarters. Opening my closet, I bypassed the black serving dress she expected me to wear. Instead, I pulled out the one thing I'd kept from my old life, a tailored Channel suit Dad had bought me for my college graduation. The doorbell rang just as I finished getting ready. Through my window, I watched as luxury cars pulled up, disgorging members of the hospital board and their spouses. Mother greeted each one effusively, playing the perfect hostess. I waited until all 20 guests were seated in the dining room before making my entrance. The conversation stopped abruptly as I walked in, dressed not as a servant but as an executive. Julia. Mother's voice was sharp with warning. What do you think you're doing? Taking my place at the table. I replied calmly, sitting in Dad's old chair at the head of the table. We have some business to discuss. I apologize for my daughter's behavior, Mother said quickly to her guests. She's been unwell. Actually, I interrupted, opening my briefcase. I'm quite well, and I have some interesting documents to share with the board. Mother's face paled. This is neither the time nor place. It's exactly the time, I said, passing copies of the real will down the table. You see, my father never left everything to you. That was a forgery, and that's just the beginning of what you've been hiding. The room erupted in murmurs as board members began reading. Mother stood abruptly, her hands shaking. These are lies, obviously forged. They're authenticated, I cut in, by 3 separate firms. Just like the evidence of your embezzlement attempts before Dad's death, the ones he caught you trying to hide. Dr. Richardson, the board chairman, looked up from the documents. Eleanor, is this true? Of course not, she snapped. This is just a desperate attempt by my disturbed daughter to reclaim what's rightfully mine, I finished. The company, the properties, everything. And to expose 10 years of fraud. I turned to the board members. You'll find complete documentation of every illegal transaction, every forged signature, every attempt to misappropriate funds. My father knew what she was capable of. That's why he left provisions to protect his legacy. Mother's careful facade cracked. You ungrateful little. Careful, Mother, I warned. The police are already on their way. The evidence has been sent to the DA's office. Your only choice now is how you want this to end. She looked around the table, seeing her carefully cultivated social circle crumbling before her eyes. These people had been her shield, her way of maintaining the illusion of respectability. Now they were witnesses to her downfall. I can explain, she began, but the damage was done. Board members were already standing, making excuses to leave. Dr. Richardson paused by my chair. We'll need to call an emergency board meeting, he said quietly. Your father was a good man, Julia. We always wondered about the circumstances of his estate. Mother watched helplessly as her guests filed out, leaving their elegant dinner untouched. When the last car pulled away, she turned on me with fury in her eyes. You've ruined everything, she hissed. After all I've done for you. All you've done. I stood, my voice steady. You made me a servant in my own home. You lied about Dad's wishes. You stole 10 years of my life. A knock at the door interrupted her response. 2 police officers entered, followed by Marcus. Mrs. Bishop, one officer said, we need you to come with us. I watched as they led her away, her perfect makeup streaked with tears, her designer dress wrinkled from her grip. The mansion, which had felt like a prison for so long, suddenly seemed to exhale. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. Your father would be proud, he said softly. You did exactly what he hoped you would. The weeks following Mother's arrest were a whirlwind of change. The mansion, once cold and oppressive, transformed as I reclaimed each room. I converted her formal parlor into a home office, replaced her antique furniture with comfortable pieces, and opened windows that had been shuttered for years. The company underwent an even more dramatic transformation. Dad's old employees welcomed me warmly, many sharing stories of how he protected them from Mother's attempts to cut benefits or reduce staff. "Your father always said you'd be back," Margaret, his longtime secretary, told me. "He kept your office exactly as it was." The office she led me to was a time capsule, my college diplomas on the wall, family photos on the desk, even my old business plans still in the drawers. Dad had prepared this space knowing that someday I'd claim my rightful place. Mother's trial was set for spring. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged documents, embezzled funds, years of financial manipulation. But the worst revelation came during discovery, when prosecutors uncovered the truth about Dad's death. The medical records were falsified. Marcus explained gently, "Your father didn't die from natural causes. The toxicology report shows elevated levels of digitalis, heart medication he wasn't prescribed." I sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. Mother hadn't just stolen my inheritance. She'd orchestrated my father's death. The investigation uncovered her careful planning. The slow poisoning over months, the fabricated medical bills, the forged will. She'd wanted complete control, and Dad had been in her way. When confronted with the evidence, she broke. In exchange for avoiding the death penalty, she confessed to everything. The court sentenced her to life without parole. I visited her once in prison, not for closure, but for answers. "Why?" I asked simply. She looked smaller in her prison uniform, her carefully maintained facade crumbling. "He was going to expose me. He discovered my dealings with offshore accounts, money I'd been skimming for years. You were his heir apparent, and I couldn't let that happen. So you killed him and made me your servant," I said flatly. "Your own daughter." "You were always his daughter," she spat, bitterness twisting her features. "I was just the trophy wife who gave birth to you. He never trusted me with the business, never saw me as an equal. Everything was always about you." I stood to leave, finally understanding. "You're wrong. Dad saw everyone's potential, yours included. You chose greed over growth, control over collaboration. That's why he trusted me instead of you." Walking out of the prison, I felt lighter. 10 years of questions had been answered, though not in ways I'd expected. The company flourished under my leadership, growing beyond even Dad's vision. I implemented policies he'd always dreamed of: profit sharing for employees, educational programs, community initiatives. The Bishop name became known for innovation and integrity rather than just wealth and power. On the anniversary of Dad's death, I found another letter in his office, hidden behind a false panel. "Dearest Julia, if you're reading this, you've not only survived but thrived. You've learned the hardest lesson in business and life. Power without compassion corrupts, but compassion without strength fails. Your mother chose power. You've chosen leadership. The difference will define your legacy. I'm sorry for the pain you've endured, but watching you now, I know it was worth it. You've become exactly who I hoped you'd be, strong enough to wield power, wise enough to use it well. The company is yours now, truly yours. Build something meaningful. Create opportunities for others. Show the world what real leadership looks like. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I always will be. Love, Dad." Today, the mansion is filled with life again. I've turned it into a residence for young entrepreneurs, giving them the support Mother never showed me. The formal dining room where she hosted her pretentious parties is now a collaborative workspace. Mother remains in prison, her perfect world reduced to a 6x8 cell. Sometimes I receive letters from her, attempts at manipulation disguised as maternal concern. I don't read them anymore. Dad's legacy lives on, not just in the company's success, but in the lives we touched. Every scholarship we fund, every startup we support, every employee who grows with us. These are his real inheritance. And mine? It wasn't the money or the mansion or even the company. It was the lesson that took 10 years to learn. True power isn't in what you own, but in what you build. Not in what you control, but in what you create. That's a lesson worth cleaning floors to learn.